there is a lot of you this video. Okay, before we get started, a large thank you to Jared, Nan, Mandel, a name I unfortunately cannot pronounce. Thank you for the support, my man. Duncan, Studio for Gaming. I certainly can't pronounce that. I will try. Euilisis. Thank you for your support. Sorry for butchering your name, bro. James, Chris, Flailing Gnome, and Retro Gamer for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And a special thank you to Mike Harden Games and Mandel Cantor for their immense support this month to the channel on Patreon. Hello guys, I started announcing Patrons on both series, so you're going to see some repeat names here, because I'm not sure what series you guys become a Patreon for, so I'm going to do it on both series now on. So we got some shooting mechanics on the go here. We're able to shoot a cube, we can shoot a wall, we got some good hit detection, but we got nothing to shoot. So in this video, we're going to make our zombie AI state machine, so we're going to begin our zombie AI. So I'm going to drag in a zombie character into the scene. If you guys don't know what a state machine is, it's just simply a function that changes AI's behavior based on which state you're in. So there's an idle state, there's a pursued target state, there's an attack state. You can basically switch up what the AI is doing based on the state they are currently in, and your state changes depending on conditions that you set. So I'm going to make a folder called Zombie Locomotion, and I got some animations I'm going to drag in there, but first I'm going to make a new animator controller, okay? This is for a zombie. It's going to be a humanoid controller, but it's going to specifically be for our zombie. We're going to set up a way to move the zombie much like we do with our character. We're going to use one animator parameter. It's going to be called vertical. And depending on what our vertical value is, we're going to change our movement. So let's make a new blend tree here and call it Locomotion. And I'm going to put in 3 animations, but let's also make our parameter first. It's going to be a float. Like I said, it'll be called vertical. You can delete the default variable that is there if you still have it. I believe it's called blend. And then when we go into our locomotion, let's make sure it's just on 1D and make sure the parameter is set to float, or else you'll get an error like I've gotten here in the console. Okay, so I'm going to make a position for the idle, a position for walking, and a position for running. We're probably not going to use the running animation very much, if at all, but I'll put it in there just in case. So this is going to work just like our player. We're going to edit the vertical parameter on the animator controller via a script. And depending on what the value is, we'll be idle, we'll be walking, or we'll be running. Make sure you untick automate thresholds and just add your animations in here. 0 will be for the idle, 1 I'm using for walk forward, and 2 will be for run forward. I'm using 2 and not 1 and 0.5 because I feel like we're never going to use the run forward animation, at least not right now. I might change that in the future. So if I go in here into the preview, hitting play, you'll see that when it says 0, we're just in our idle state. If I move to 0.5, which is partway between the idle and the walking state, it's a very slow walk. And if I move it to 1, that's our walking state, which looks pretty all right. And if I actually move it up to 2, which again, we're probably not going to use that much, at least not yet, we'll be in the running state, which looks really funny. That's hilarious. Okay, so now we have our animator set up. So let's go back into the game here, and I'm going to click on my character model here and just check something. Okay, let's add a script called Zombie Manager on our zombie. And this is going to work much like the player manager on our player, but it will be for zombies. So we'll handle all things AI. Specifically right now, our state machine. So let's start off by making a private function. I'm going to call this handle state machine. And this is just going to process our states and their behavior. Now we don't have any states right now, so we have to make some of those. But before we do that, I'm going to make some pseudocode here. I'm going to start off with a comment. I'm going to say, so what this wants to do is it wants to run logic on a state based on which state we're currently in. So if you're in the idle state, you're going to run the logic in the idle state. But then after that, we want to handle switching the state if we need to switch the state. So if you're in the idle state and you then find a target to pursue, we want to switch our state from the idle state to the pursue target state. So up here, we're also going to put a variable for our starting state, which is always going to be the idle state. And that's basically it. It's very simple. Very, very simple. So let's start by making a new script, and I'm just going to call this state. And this will act as the base class for all of our future states. This is what we're going to derive all states from. And we can start off by, people like using abstract. I'm just going to use a virtual void. You can use whichever you want. Public virtual void, or virtual state, sorry, because we always have to return a state. So public virtual state, I'm going to call it tick. That's all. You can call it whatever you want. That just means like to run the logic on this function. And I'm just going to return this because you always have to return something that is of type state or else you'll get an error. That's the point of making it a virtual state. And I'm just going to say this is the base class for all future states. So when we run this, we're going to run all the logic in there and then return this state. But we have the logic in here because this is the base class. But before we move on to actual states, I'm going to show you how this works so you get a better idea of it, especially for people who aren't familiar with state machines. I'm going to make it really simple. Let's make an empty game object under the zombie. I'm going to call this states, and this is going to house all my states. You can use scriptable objects. I'm not using them. I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to drag my state script onto here, and let's actually set up a mock state just so I can show you how this is going to work. So what we want to do first is actually make this pseudocode actual code. So I'm going to start by saying right up here, let's make this state. Let's make it our current state. And then we're going to say, let's make it public so we can drag it in the inspector too, just so I can show you. And then we're going to say if current state is not equal null, we're going to say, we're going to run the logic on the current state. And what we want to do is get our next state because the state is switching after it runs. So we're going to run the logic on this state and then if we can switch states, and that might mean we stay in the same state because if we don't meet the parameters to switch to the pursue target state, we'll keep running the idle state over and over and over and over again. So let's make a variable here called next state. And then we're going to say next state equals current state dot tick. And like I said, it might just keep returning the same state over and over again. So your next state might be the idle state because if the conditions aren't met, you'll keep returning the same thing over and over again. And then we're going to say if next state does not equal null, current state equals next state. And actually to put that inside, you can't put this outside of that if statement. It has to go inside here. So you can just put this right in here like this. That's my bad. But basically, it's just going to keep playing the logic in a state over and over again. And if it returns itself, it'll keep playing the same state. But if it changes, it'll return a different state. So now I'll show you what I mean. It's very, very simple. I know it might sound confusing if you've never done this before, but check this out. We're going to jump in now, and we're going to make a mock state. Let's first call upon our fixed update to actually run this. So we're going to then run handle state machine inside fixed update. Okay, that looks good. Now, let's go inside the project here now, and we want to drag in our state inside. And I'm just going to put a debug message in here. This is inside the state, debug.log, and we're going to say running state. So you get to see now like this. This will keep playing every fixed frame. You'll see the update in the console, just verifying that we are running the logic on this script over and over and over again. So if I drag it in here, and I hit play, as you can see, we are running the state. There it goes. Down in the corner, over and over and over again. Gonna mute the Discord, my bad. So now we can actually do something from here that's really cool. Let's go into the state here and let's just say, let's make some fake parameters. So let's add in, I'm just gonna say public for now because I'm gonna erase them. Public bool, move to chase target state. So let's say, pretend this is a look for target state or an idle state. Then we're gonna say move to sleep state. So these are two choices we would have if we had two more states made. If we had a chase target and a sleep state, these are two potential states we can move to. And it's really easy to set it up. You make a condition for them, and then based on that condition, you want to see if it's true, and if it's true, switch those states. So if the conditions were met to move to chase target state, then we just say we would return a chase target state instead of returning this state. That's it. And it would go there instead of going back to the state over and over again. And then if you want to do the same for sleep state, you could say right below that, else if move to sleep state, then return sleep state. And I'm just going to put a debug here saying switching to chase target state. And obviously we're not actually going to return another state because we don't have one made yet. So we're just going to return this over and over again, but I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes. Else if move to sleep state, we can do the same thing up here. We can add a little debug. I'm just going to return this over and over again because we don't have any other state made right now. And I'm going to copy this and paste it in here like that. And I'm going to change this to switching to sleep, not sleep target state, it's just sleep. Okay, now if I save that, now check this out. We go in game, hit play, and now we'll have two options here, or two bools we can toggle, but pay attention to the console. So if we hit play, as you can see, we're running the state as normal. I've cleared that same thing. So now if I go into the states here, and if I click on move to chase target state, we're now in switching to chase target state. And if I actually return a new state there, it would switch to that state and then run the logic on that state. So now if I click move to sleep state, you can see the console changes again. It switches to the sleep state. And if I had a new state returned there, it would switch to that state and run that logic. So now that you actually know how it functions, I'm going to basically make the skeleton. Let's erase this because we're never going to use this. Is the base class. This won't be used as anything. But I'm actually going to make the skeletons of two states and prepare them for the next video. And we're actually going to switch between them. So what we're going to want to make is an idle state and a pursue target state. So the zombie will stay idle until it has a target, and once it has a target, it will then switch to the pursue target state, where it will follow the player until it gets close enough to attack. So let's make two scripts. Let's call them idle state and pursue target state are going to both derive from the base state class. So then just say override. You want to override your default function, which is tick, and then we make our own logic in here. Okay, once that's done, you always need to return something, so just say return this for now, because you always need to return a variable of type state. So the idle state is done. Now let's go over into, let's go on top here, actually write some comments here as to what this does. We're going to say we make our character idle until they find a potential target, and then we would, after that, switch to the pursue target state. So when that's completed, we can just say right here, if a target is found, we proceed to the pursue target state. And we say, if no target is found, we just remain in the idle state. So we'll keep returning this state, or the character just idles over and over again, searching for a target. Okay, now we can say bool up here, and it is private. We say has target. And if we have a target, we're obviously going to move to the next state. And I'm just going to serialize this just so you guys, or I can hit it in the inspector so you guys can see the state machine switching between states. So if we have a target, obviously we're not going to do the logic for finding a target right now this second. We're going to do that in the next video. And we're going to do the logic for pursuing the target as well. But if we have a target, we then go to the pursue target state. So let's make a new script called pursue target state. And let's make it derive from the state base class. I'm saying the word state a lot of times in this video. And let's move and do some logic with that too. So here we go, state. Let's call in the default function. Let's override that, which is tick. And again, you always have to return something because this function wants you to return a state for it to function. So just say return this. Okay. So the purpose of this state would be to follow the target until we get close enough. So I'm just going to say debug.log, we are in the pursue target state. This is just to demonstrate the state machine switching states again to you. Let's throw a debug log on the idle state too. Running the pursue target state. Okay. Next, let's call upon our pursue target state variable. Let's call it pursue target state. And since I'm going to put all the states on the same game object, we're just going to make an awake method here. And we're going to say pursue target state equals get component pursue target state. And that's it. And now what we can do is we can say, using our bool, if we have a target, so if has target, then we're going to return our pursue target state. If we don't have a target, so else, we must not have any target at all, we'll keep returning this state, so we'll keep looking for one. And then above both of these bits of logic will go the functionality to actually detect finding a target. So we're going to say debug.log, we have found a target right here. Now let's save that. And then back over here on the zombie manager, let's actually make this private. And let's make a public state variable called starting state. And this will be the state that your character starts off in. I'll make it public idle state because it's always going to be the idle state your character starts off in. We're going to say the state this character begins on. There we go. And now on right above this, I'm just going to say the state the character is currently in. This will be our current state. Okay, looks good. And then on awake, I'm going to say the current state equals the starting state. So you got to drag it in the inspector. Make sure you do that. Let's save that. Okay, now let's minimize this and let's go over into the inspector here when this loads up. And let's remove the base class state from this character. And let's add the idle state and the pursue target state. Okay, next, let's drag in the idle state into the starting state. Now if we hit play, you will see that If I go over here now on the states, and I click on has target, we have found a target. We are running the pursue target state. So it changed from the idle to the pursue target state. Okay, let's jump back inside the zombie manager. I'm just going to make this a serializable field here on the current state just so you can see it change in the inspector in the future for debugging purposes. You might want to know what state you're on, obviously, or what state the zombie's in. Now let's minimize that. I'm going to go over here now to the idle state. Just going to add a debug message .log right here just so it's evident we have no target, just so you can see that the character is on the idle state and you can see when it switches. I'm really trying to drive home the point here of how a state machine works because this is the foundation video that we're going to base the next few videos off of. You need to know how it works really before you start writing state logic. So if we go into the game here one last time for a final demonstration, we have no target yet. Right here, the current state is currently the idle state. If I go up to states again and I check off the has target box, boom, we have found a target. Gets called one time, then it switches to the state. Now we are running the pursue target state. Okay, I hope that is clear for you guys because this is the foundation of the next few videos. In the next video, we're going to add in our idle state logic where we'll give our AI the ability to detect a player. The logic would go up here, for example. And then after the AI detects a player, we're going to add logic to the pursue target state so it will try to get really close to the player and then stop. And then after that, we'll plan out some attacks, and we'll go from there. We're also going to give our ability, or our gun, the ability to damage the AI and the zombie as soon as we can. So if you guys did like this episode, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment. It does help appease the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon below. I will see you guys on the next one. Going to try to get more videos of this series out a little more frequently. See you soon.